President Trump calls it a critical breakthrough in the war with ISIS. U.S.-backed forces last week liberating the radical Islamist de facto capital, the Syrian city of Raqqa. There was celebrating in the streets, but Senator Lindsey Graham warns that ISIS could resurface somewhere else.
What I worry about Africa, it becomes the new platform for people to come to. The ungoverned spaces of Africa is where the terrorists will come after you defeat them in Syria and Iraq and Afghanistan. And there are some groups within this system of terrorist groups in Africa that would attack our allies or the United States so they could.
So is there a need for a new anti-terrorism strategy? Joining us now, Lieutenant Colonel Mitch Utterback, former Special Forces officer in the U.S. Army. Glad to have you as always, Colonel Utterback. And I want to start here in Raqqa. I mean, it's certainly good news but it doesn't mean that the slate is clean in Raqqa. If you would walk us through the residual effects, the aftermath, what happens there now?
Thanks, Arthel. Well, it was almost 2 years ago next month that then President Obama sent 50 Special Forces advisors to northern Syria to knock down the first domino. Raqqa is certainly one of the dominoes, the big one for the strategic and propaganda victory in eastern Syria. But the Euphrates River Valley, southeast of Raqqa, all the way to the Anbar province, the border with Iraq, is still infested with ISIS. And our troops are still going to be advising our Kurdish and Arab allies to continue to eradicate leftover ISIS pockets in that part of the country. And Iraq is still fighting ISIS in their parts of their country as well.
And then you have, Senator Graham saying, listen, but don't be surprised if a lot of this fighting with ISIS ends up in Africa. So how does this change the fight? Does the Trump administration need to lay out a new anti-terror strategy?
Well, the administration, believe it or not, last week's release of the policy on Iran is a pillar of the counterterrorism, anti-terrorism strategy. Iran, the largest state sponsor of terror. So part of the strategy has already been released. But it is important to know that we've got the best people in the Pentagon, and something Senator Graham and other senators need to know. We have people waiting on appointments from the Senate to go into the Pentagon who are waiting to write the strategy for anti-terrorism. So that's something that the Senate needs to be aware of. But a new strategy is emerging, and we're waiting on the people to be confirmed to help write the strategy as well.
And I'm going to ask you a little bit more on that in a moment. But first, I want to show a bit of an interview that Eric did yesterday with Fox News Foreign Affairs analyst Ambassador Dennis Ross, who had an idea of an ISIS strategy and a suggestion which is to use YouTube and social media to show the ugly side of ISIS.
We should show them surrendering, number one. Number two, we should have them coming on and telling their stories. Many of them also became disaffected from ISIS. And if you can show those who were part of ISIS and put that online, because ISIS uses social media as a very effective platform.
So Ambassador Ross is saying, show them online, saying, I was a part of it, I went in there, I'm out of it now because it was not at all what it was cracked up to be. Do you agree with that strategy?
Great counter-propaganda strategy. With as savvy as ISIS has been with social media and just media in general, it's a great way to turn what they used as a weapon back on them to show what the ugly face of ISIS was and what people that went there to the caliphate thought and why they wish they hadn't gone. I think it will be important.
And getting back to your earlier point, Colonel Utterback, because this modern-day war and threats to our national security are so unconventional, do you think more power should be given to commanders in the field with the ability to craft more tailored strategies to the threats facing them on the ground?
Absolutely, yes. And soldiers that are serving now have said that they do sense a difference in the last several months with the relaxed rules of engagement and more decentralized push down to commanders on the ground level to make the decisions. Not every mission has to be approved at the highest level. Our men and women leading these forces all over the world can make the right decision if they have the right commander's guidance. That's what we need, the right commander's guidance, the right strategy, and the right rules of engagement. And they're getting that now more and more.
And finally, apart from ISIS, what countries do you think are most threatening to the U.S. and or our allies?
Boy, We always talk about North Korea. They are an existential threat, as we know. Certainly Iran and Russia are strategic competitors of ours. But, Arthel, as we've seen, some of our greatest threats can be a radicalized person within our own country, as across Europe. Radicalized people within Belgium, France, Germany are the ones conducting the attacks. So not just from other countries, but from within. We have to concern ourselves with all of it.
Colonel Mitch Utterback, always a pleasure to speak with you. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Arthel.